Welcome to our October meeting. So I will call this meeting to order. Looks like we have a quorum. The first thing on our agenda for tonight, thought I'd turned everything that could ding off. Our first order on the agenda for tonight is to consider the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Are there any additions or changes that anyone would like to see to the meeting minutes? Scott? Do you have your hand raised?
Sorry, trying to get it off mute. Make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, I'm going to do a roll call and you can just answer. So all in favor, and as I call your name, you can say yay or nay. Angeline? Chris?
Yay.
Elise? Fayez?
Yes.
Hem? Justin?
Present.
Caitlin? Renata?
Yes.
Ryan?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Terry? Tim?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
All right, that carries. We will go ahead and move to the next item on the agenda. Sean, you're going to have some follow-up from our previous meetings.
I don't have anything to follow up. If I have forgotten something I was supposed to follow up on, please remind me.
It was on the agenda. I didn't remember talking about it, but I thought maybe something had come up in the last few days. So
we have that
so
as a standing item now.
Oh, it is a standing item now. My mistake. Then we'll move on to the city center plan substantial amendment. Sean, and I believe that we also have Elaine Howard on with us.
Yes, thank you. So as I've mentioned a couple times before, we are, as a result of the City Center Futures project, we are gonna be going for a substantial amendment to the plan. And in Tigard, that means it has to be, this kind of amendment would have to be approved by the voters because we would be increasing the amount of maximum indebtedness. And that's just a way to say how much money we can spend on projects in the district. So that would be going to voters in May of next year, so fairly soon. So to help us get all of our ducks in a row and everything in order, and to actually write the legally required items we need, we've engaged Elaine Howard to help us with that. And I believe some of you were on the commission when Elaine has given her Urban Renewal 101 presentation. And maybe we'll do that again in the future because it's a really good summary. Although I've basically stolen her presentation to give in my orientation for new commissioners. So anyway, Elaine is going to be helping us with this amendment, and the main reason we are doing this is to add some new projects to the plan. And let me bring that up here. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can
Okay, great.
see it.
So the projects we're talking about here are there's a parking structure. Parking structures are very expensive to build, and we're looking at building one that would be in connection with the new city hall, which we haven't talked a lot about, but we'll talk more about this next month. The idea that we would basically build a new city hall and relocate all of the operations that are on our present civic center. And once those offices were vacated, we would be able to redevelop our civic center campus, which is about 10 acres, into new housing, affordable and market rate housing. So this parking structure would be a dual purpose. It would be parking for City Hall, but it would also be available for visitors to downtown, and would be especially important nights and weekends for that to be available for the Universal Plaza when we have large events there. It'd be pretty key because there's not going to be any dedicated public parking for that. So it would be really important for the success of the plaza. And TIF would only be making a contribution to it, depending on how much maximum indebtedness we increase, would be scaled to that. And I should note it, mention that TIF would not be funding the city hall itself. That would be going to the voters in a bond question, probably November of 2021. So new streets is the next project. That's should be an S at the end there, not one new street, but several new streets. In our downtown connectivity plan, we have a lot of connections we'd like to make to break down the large blocks that are in downtown. And you know, we've had a couple of small legs built. You know, the Ash Avenue connection from Burnham to the west parking lot is one, and then that small street Atwell Place that serves the Atwell building is also part of the connectivity plan. So the connectivity plan was adopted after the urban renewal plan, and so we would like to get those new streets to be eligible to be paid for in part by TIF. You know, in the case of Atwell, that was built by the developer, but there might be some other projects where there's public-private partnerships or the public paying for all of the new street. So public spaces, we'd like to do more of those. One specific project is the Tigard Street Heritage Trail would be brought south to Hall, and there is that path that's already in existence from the west parking lot to Hall. The idea would be there would be a continuous path from Main Street to Hall, and using that existing path, but building a new section of trail and having similar artwork and historic related installations. Affordable housing assistance is another thing we would like to fund. That's not specifically called out in our plan right now, so we would like to make that a specific project to call out. And then property acquisition for the purposes of redevelopment. Sometimes it's when you have a bunch of small properties and you're trying to assemble a larger site, those get quite expensive. So one way the TIF agency can facilitate redevelopment is to purchase some of the property itself, or purchase part of the property and then dispose of it to developers to get a mixed-use building or affordable housing development, as the case may be. So those are the projects. There's quite a lot that we have to do to get there to the substantial amendment. And Elaine, would you like to
Sure. Can
say
you
hi
hear
to
me?
everybody and then
Yes.
walk us through that?
Yes. Am I on?
Yes.
Great. Good evening, everyone. And some of you I've met, and those who I haven't, I look forward in the future to meeting you. We just started this process. October 7th was our kickoff meeting, so we've been at it a week. This is our tentative schedule as of this date, so the briefing to you tonight, and we expect to come back to you on your November 11th meeting and give you more details. In the meantime, we will be contacting the different major taxing jurisdictions to talk about the concurrence issue. So Sean had mentioned that they are talking about increasing maximum indebtedness. And there are two levels that you can indebtedness. One level, the city can do it by itself with approval by the voters after the ordinance is passed. And the other level has to be approved by 3 of the 4 top taxing jurisdictions, in addition to the voters. The one that can be approved by the city itself is 20% of the original maximum indebtedness as adjusted by inflation, and the other is anything above that amount. So we had a discussion yesterday with Washington County staff. We had a conversation this morning with Chief Olvin from TVFNR, the fire district. We will be scheduling a meeting with the school district to talk to them. Those 3 districts plus the city are the top 4 taxing jurisdictions. So as we start developing the documents and getting more input from those taxing jurisdictions, when we come back to you in November, we will have more clarity about their responses to the 2 levels of maximum indebtedness increase and whether we feel like we can achieve the concurrence needed to get the higher level of increase to allow more money to be contributed to those projects. So it doesn't mean adding other additional projects. It just means using the same projects Sean just went through, but just being able to fund them at a higher level. So we'll get your input at that November 11th meeting, and then to be able to get this on the May ballot, which is what staff and city council had given us direction to do in the RFP. The actual adoption of the ordinance has to be completed in February. So to be able to do that, we backed out the schedule of when things needed to happen to be able to get to a February hearing by the city council. And to do that, the first formal meeting is your Development Commission Urban Renewal Agency on December 15th, where they will review a draft plan amendment and report and vote to hopefully send that out for the formal review process. That process includes, at the top, you can see a consultant confer. That's a formal process with all of the taxing districts, and they have a 45-day time period within which you have to give them that amount of time before you can actually vote on an ordinance. So that period, we would get those letters out the following day, and that period would start that day. I would go to the Planning Commission for their review for conformance to your comprehensive plan on January 4th. And then if we are going for the concurrence to the maximum indebtedness increase, that's the larger amount. In between that time and the February City Council hearing, we would need concurrence resolutions from the city, the county commission, TVFNR, Tigard Charleston schools. Again, we only need 3 of those 4. The city council would then have a hearing, a citywide advertised hearing, and consider a non-emergency ordinance on February 9th and vote for adoption. And again, if they vote to adopt the ordinance, what that really means is it then gets a ballot title written and it goes on your May ballot. And if the voters approve it, the ordinance is fully adopted. You as a city council, your city as a city council cannot adopt on their own. They have to get voter approval. So that's our timeline. If there are any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions out there?
Do you expect there to be any point, or I guess my question is, are you concerned about any of these milestones? Are there any that might be in question? Are there any that, you know, we need to be concerned about, or do we feel that we'll be able to meet each one of these milestones?
I think Sean can jump in after I speak, but I think you can never take concurrence for granted from any of the other taxing jurisdictions. We'll know more what concerns or issues they might have as we do these preliminary meetings with them. TVFNR did ask us to brief their full board at their December meeting. So when they do concurrence, they actually need a vote on a resolution of their board. So we'll know more during this next month before we come back to you on November 11th, what input we've gotten from those different taxing districts. That's the only thing I would see that, and if we didn't get concurrence, you would still move ahead, but just at a lower level of funding. We're hopeful that you will get concurrence and be able to go for the full level that the city would want.
And I think, Ryan, did you have a question?
Yeah, so I just want to confirm, we're only talking about increasing the maximum indebtedness. There's no discussion, I'm not even sure it's an option, of increasing the area of the downtown URA. Is that correct?
Right, we're not, we did a maximum, we did a substantial amendment in 2017 to expand the district by 38 acres. And by Oregon law, you can only expand your district by 20% of the original land area. So we're already at that threshold. And, you know, we did investigate the possibility of expanding the size of the district. But what the City Center Futures Project told us, and Johnson Economics, the recommendation was that we keep the existing boundaries and ask for more maximum indebtedness. And that means you're starting off, your maximum indebtedness is going to accrue much faster because you're starting from that frozen base from 2006 rather than restarting that clock. So yeah, we're not contemplating increasing the size.
This is Justin. Could you possibly speak to the possibly new location of the downtown center?
The Civic Center?
Yes.
Right.
With
So
the
that
city
would,
hall.
you know, if you know where the Public Works building is on Burnham, basically a new multi-story office building would be built there for the police, for all of the city hall staff and for many public works workers. There would still be a need for a public works yard, you know, to lay down all the big equipment and sandbags and all that kind of stuff. And that would be outside of the district somewhere. They do have a couple of leads and potential properties there. But yeah, all of the city functions would be relocated to a new building where the Tigard Public Works building is presently.
Elise? Elise, did you have a question?
I had to unmute myself. Yeah, this is a little bit different than the priorities we had talked about in the past of the police station needing to be rebuilt before the city hall, because we would have a certain amount of decreasing construction in the city with the build out of River Terrace. And so, Sean, could you address that, please? When did this transition change, or is this just a current change to the plan that they're not publicly speaking about a police station being the priority?
Right. So the police station would be included in this new city hall building. If I didn't make that clear, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I heard that. It's just this seems to be a change in the transition. It's like at one point we talked about, this was a couple years back, talked about the city hall, all that stuff being constructed. And then we dropped back to the position that the police station was a priority because of the build out of River Terrace would be done. And we'd have fewer employees in the planning department at that point. And that would be getting a little bit smaller, whereas the police had already been in desperate need of space. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe they've adjusted that schedule, and I believe the police think they can hold on until the new city hall is built. Now, of course, the voters have to approve the city hall, so
right.
If that doesn't happen, then it's back to the drawing board.
Mm-hmm. Because they tried asking something like that about before, and when they did the telephone surveys out of the city hall, all of it didn't rate as highly as building out the police station.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. And the you know, this new reality we're dealing with, where there's likely to be more telework situations, you know, that's being factored into the designs as well. We have an architect who's you know, figuring out how much space would be needed, and that's definitely, you know, it's probably decreasing the amount of office space that's needed, because there'll be more shared facilities, shared workspaces. Some, you know, some employees can do that, not all. Obviously, the police need to have a physical place to work, and a lot of our public works people do as well.
Any other questions for Sean or Elaine?
So yeah, next month we will be talking more about this civic center, because it has been kind of going on its own process, and you know, there have been lots of kind of changes, but now I think they're coalescing around an idea, and we can share that with you next month. I personally haven't been that involved in the process, working on too many other things, but we can have a briefing on that next month.
And this is Kate. Under non-agenda items, I did attend a call on the the city facilities consolidation, and I can give everyone an update at that time.
Great. Any other questions? Great. Well, we'll have more to share next month, and Elaine will be back. We'll have some more information, and we'll get your feedback on our plans.
Thank you, Elaine. We look forward to hearing from you next month.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
And then the next thing on our agenda is the Southwest Corridor TriMet response to our letter. Just so that everybody remembers what our key points were, the copy of our letter is in the packet, and as well as a letter from Steve in response. So if you just want to take a quick minute and look at our concerns, and then Sean, I believe that we have someone from TriMet joining.
We do. Are they on the line yet? Joe, do you see them? I think they may have saw the agenda. They might be coming at 7.
Do we want to move one of our agenda items up then?
We can, yeah.
Do you want to, should we talk about the third quarter goal update? I don't know, or do you think there's time to do the updated downtown vision?
Yeah, let's do the goal update first.
Okay.
And then TriMet should arrive. So let me bring that up here. Well, unfortunately, I have exited out of that folder, so now I have to find it. So if you could take a look at that in your packet while I pull this up and prepare any questions you might have. Let's see here.
I would ask for everyone, as we're going through this third quarter update, is if there's anything that is not on here, please speak up. This will form the basis for our end of year report, which is due December 1st. So the plan is, after this third quarter update tonight, that we will draft the year-end report for the TCAC, and then in November we will have a draft and review that draft and do a working session, and then have it ready to submit on the 1st of December. So if there's anything missing that you see, please speak up or send a chat or let me know so that I can make sure that I include it in our year-end report.
Right, and this is the first time we're doing a goals update, I think, because we are second quarter because of COVID. So yeah, this, if I miss something, please let me know, because this is just my take on it, but you may have some things that I missed. So I can go quickly through this. So the aspirational goal, facilitate opportunities for development to promote walkability, equity, and connectivity across both urban and rural districts. I kind of figured everything we're doing, it falls under that, so I didn't call anything specific. Although I guess I could have put the multi-use path, you know, pushing that into, you know, trying to get it included as part of the Southwest Corridor and applying for grant funding for that. For downtown, the update is, you know, we've provided updates on the Universal Plaza, Main Street at Fano progress, and housing alongside Senior Center, City Center futures, and the substantial amendment. TCAC did write a letter in support of the Downtown Reimagined TGM grant, and this is news. We did get that award in late September, so that'll be a project that will be coming to you in some form in a few months. Was there anything anyone had to add to that? So for the triangle, the goal is to participate in the execution of the Tigard Triangle Equitable Urban Renewal Implementation Project. TCAC has gotten briefed on the new Tigard Triangle, on the Phase 2, and the 72nd Avenue plans. Next month, we'll also have a memo to review on development assistance and having a defined criteria and more of a set process in place when we get requests for development assistance. For the Southwest Corridor, consider, investigate, and recommend specific planning components associated with the adopted Southwest Corridor alignment and station locations in the downtown and Triangle. We did get a briefing back in March from TriMet. We'll have another one tonight. TCAC submitted that letter, and TriMet will be here in response to the letter and making a presentation.
Sean, question.
Yeah.
Elise speaking here.
Yep.
That third quarter update, since this is due in December for the Southwest Corridor, we need to put some language in there that says upon passage of the bond measure. Because if we don't, because right now this is all pending on the passage of the transportation 2040 plan in the bond measure, and if it doesn't pass, then plans will change. So there needs to be something in there about that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and we'll know in just a couple of weeks here what the future of that project will be.
Yes, so maybe we could have some language in there that says, you know, upon passage of the bond measure or reevaluation will be under process or something like that. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
So affordable housing recommends specific programs and policies to city staff and board that directly affect, support, encourage the development and preservation of affordable housing in downtown the Triangle. I think we've made a lot of progress on this. Members of the TCAC were on the advisory board for the senior housing project, which did get bond funding in September. I can't remember if we announced that last meeting. You know, affordable housing was top ranked in the new Tigard Triangle, and in response to that, the budget includes $1 million in affordable housing development assistance in the Triangle. And right now in the Triangle, there's a project that's leasing up or about to lease up. That's the SEPA Red Rock Creek Commons project. One is under construction now. One is in planning review, and another potential one is kicking the tires on a site. It would be a very big project. Equitable Business Development recommends specific programs and policies to city staff and the board that directly affect, support, and encourage equitable business development downtown the Triangle. So in our TCDA budget for the downtown or the city center, we do have a $75,000 Equitable Opportunities Fund. It's been allocated. The new Tigard Triangle includes a memo on business assistance that can guide a future program in the Triangle to help business development in an equitable manner. And then looking at a more citywide basis, economic development staff has been engaged with a group called MISO, which is Micro Enterprise Services of Oregon, and another group called Adelante Mojares on equitable business development. They've held a number of workshops aimed at minority-owned businesses, and I've been pretty successful in that regard in a citywide basis. And some of the businesses they've served are in downtown and Triangle. So that's the update. Any ads? Okay.
Okay.
Are our TriMet partners here?
I see
Yep,
Fiona
we're here.
and Jeb.
Nice.
Fiona? You're very faint.
Oop, sorry about that. How about now?
Much better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, as we mentioned, the TCAC sent a letter a few weeks ago to TriMet, and that was in the packet, focused around the downtown and the Triangle. And TriMet requested to make a presentation to talk about the progress of the Southwest Corridor in general, and then also the specific items that were mentioned in the letter. And so we have, do you guys want to introduce yourselves and then do your presentation?
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. This is Jeb Doran. I'm a senior project manager at TriMet. I believe I've met most of you before and have presented for this group a few times in the past, and I'll be doing the presentation tonight.
And Fiona Cundy here. I am an urban design project manager with TriMet. So I think I've met a few of you, but I don't think I've been to your group. So thanks for having me.
And this is Amparo Agosto. I'm the community affairs representative, and I will be listening in and taking notes.
Thank you for joining us.
Great, so can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Great. So thanks for having us. It's really good to be here to talk through the project. The last time we were here was in the summer of 2019, where we were starting to discuss some of the station area planning efforts and station access, and we were really just beginning to kick off the production of the project's conceptual design report. So we're really happy to be here and kind of talk through all the project and provide some updates. As you've heard from us before, this project is about supporting the expected growth in the region and improving access to jobs and places in the corridor. It's also about supporting the local economy with an expected 28,000 jobs projected on the project, and as well as addressing equity and housing affordability with a commitment of up to 950 affordable housing units within the corridor. And finally, it's also about supporting the state's and local climate action plans by helping provide an alternative to some of the single occupancy vehicle modes of transportation. There are 13 stations over 11 miles. It's a 30-minute ride, and 37,500 daily trips are expected. As I go through the presentation, I'm going to focus primarily on the urban Tigard stations, which is the 68th, Elmhurst, and Hall stations, but I will touch on other stations south of there as well. The project is currently in a great phase. We just finished the final draft of the CDR and have published that, and we're done with it and it is available for the public to view. The CDR is really about capturing elements of the project, but there's still a lot of design issues that we have left to resolve. And so looking ahead, the near-term steps are about the November vote coming up next month, as well as the publication of the federal environmental impact statement. And then beyond that, in the next 2 to 3 years, it's really about completing the final design and defining what the look and feel of this project is. We've had a lot of conversations within the Tigard community over the years, and we are starting to gain a very clear understanding about what the core values of this project for this project are. At City Council, we really heard some primary focus areas of concern around supporting TOD development and integrating the station with that development and with the downtown, especially at Hall or in the Tigard Triangle, and then creating access and getting safe access to that station to make them very welcoming and safe environments. We've also heard a lot about minimizing the impacts within some of the important areas, especially the Hunziker industrial area. And then a lot of those points were echoed in the recent letter from the Tigard Town Center Advisory Committee. And so as we move through this presentation, I'm going to touch on some of those key aspects to update you on the status of each of these within the focus areas. So despite COVID, the CDR outreach is ongoing. We've had a lot of meetings throughout the last 9 months, and we still have more coming, some upcoming ones with the Tigard's Downtown Alliance tomorrow morning, as well as we've been holding staff office hours on select Tuesdays. The next one's October 20th, so this is a great opportunity just to hear more from the community and answer any questions about the project. And then we're following those with some more meetings in Washington County, as well as the next Community Advisory Committee meeting on November 12th. So the final draft of the CDR is complete, as I mentioned. It's out for the public and to view. Since the draft CDR, which happened in January of 2020, we've got a lot of feedback from the public. And so that feedback really zeroed in on a few areas around station area planning, design refinements, better addressing station access and a framework for that, toolkits for what the design treatments will look like, what is this project going to look and feel like, and addressing more and providing more information about our affordable housing efforts in the corridor. But it's important to keep in mind that the CDR is just a snapshot in time. It reflects the conceptual design for the project, for the elements and the station areas. But as I said, there's still a lot of unresolved issues that we have to address over the next 2 to 3 years. To help guide us, the CDR includes design value statements. So this really helps capture and reflect the core values that will help us guide the outcomes in that 2 to 3 year period, and identifies some critical focus areas that still need resolution. So I'm going to touch on each of the CDR updates here just real quickly. The first of those is the station access hierarchy, which helps expand on our 3 traditional modes of access for high capacity transit projects in our region. Within our whole system and for this project, walk access is extremely important. For this project, it makes up 65% of the total mode of access for the light rail project. 23% of that comes from bus transfers and 12% comes from auto access. So we updated this hierarchy to help reflect the multitude of analyses that we completed to provide more depth and address a lot of other modes of access and ways to improve walk access to transit. The first of those is TOD. So the hierarchy really helps place transit-oriented development into context. There's a lot of studies that show that TOD supports transit riderships, but perhaps more critically, it's also demonstrated an increase in walking and biking and choices for alternatives to single occupancy vehicles. Which helps to support Tigard's goals to be the most walkable community in the Northwest. We also did other studies specifically for affordable housing with our memorandum of understanding that looks at the urban Tigard stations and identified a potential of up to 1,200 affordable housing units in our station areas. This would far exceed our MOU commitments of 150 to 200 units. So we feel pretty good about our positioning there. We also have a work plan that we've been working with Tigard staff on called our Tigard TOD work plan. And this has been looking at all the station areas to study the TOD potential and understand how the design of the project, is there changes we can make to support the best outcomes for development and help fulfill Tigard's overall visions for land use at each of the station areas. We also added in a spot for some mobility services. As we know, technology is really changing the choices that people have to get around. And these technologies can really help to increase and provide access to high-capacity transit systems like the light rail project. So the framework helps place the potential for the future partnerships with private mobility providers into context on the project. We want to provide space for these mobility providers to operate and then allow for flexible design of the spaces to help adapt to new and future technologies. These efforts, our efforts also included some suitability analysis to help consider equitable access for the disadvantaged populations that are living within the station areas.
Could you, excuse me, before you move on,
yes.
Could you go back one? Could you give us some examples of what you mean by mobility services?
Yes, absolutely. So scooters would be one, Uber would be another, Uber and Lyft, bike share services, even potential for like autonomous vehicle shuttles and what we call microtransit. So basically, even to some extent, like car drop-off spaces and other things. Those are just a few of the examples that are out there right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the project is also seeking environmental clearance for 7 station access projects in Tigard and Tualatin, including the 217 multi-use path linking the triangle to downtown. The projects are currently unfunded, but they are well positioned to seek additional funding, and we continue to support Tigard's grant applications to seek additional funds, especially for the 217 MUP. The CDR has also captures some critical design elements on the project, and the next few years are really about pulling all these pieces together to help to define a consistent appearance and function for all of the transit elements, but also maintaining flexibility and incorporating design elements that help design the station areas to support the local community visions. So in these, we've included a set of toolkits. This really is a portrait of all the potential treatments that we can use on this project. These are demonstrated and proven elements that we've used throughout our system, not only to identify the transit system itself, but also that have been successful in helping to support those community visions that we serve at each of our stations. So within these, not only do we represent the station elements like, shelters and other things, but there's also several other urban design treatments, including what our systems look like and how our system buildings and OCS, our overhead catenary system poles, treatments for walls, what the trackways look like, and then bridges and structures. So for bridges, the CDR also identifies the context of each of the major bridges in Tigard. This helps to guide the design responses to fit those bridges into their individual context, be it urban or a natural area or a roadway setting. The first example is, as we start to walk through the alignment, is the I-5 overpass and 99W underpass at the 68th station. This alignment also flies over 68th Street Avenue and over Red Rock Creek. So as we move forward, we'll be seeking some important feedback about how to best fit the 68th and Red Rock Creek structures into the natural area resource around the creek. The 68th station also serves the Tigard Triangle and South Portland neighborhoods. It includes the station as well as up to 350 park and ride stalls and a surface lot, with improvements at the 64th and 68th intersection to address pedestrian safety and facilitate bus transfers. There's also some improvements on 68th Street itself, but we do know there's still a lot of work to do here to address bike and ped access, including the potential for a mid-block crossing on 99W between 68th and 64th. We do need to help ensure a lot of our transit elements don't preclude the best possible transit-oriented development outcomes. This might example of that might be a placement of storm facilities to make sure that they're placed in a way that really allows a conversion of the surface parking into TOD when the time comes. System building placements, and then addressing pedestrian circulation and access to really facilitate the best access not only to the street network but to the future Red Rock Creek Trail. And 70th, this is an important element of the project, is it completes the pedestrian spine through the triangle or a portion of that on 70th Avenue. We know there's still more work to do here with Tigard staff to identify and incorporate Tigard's preferred street concepts and in continuing to improve pedestrian connectivity and address the contextual design for the Dartmouth structure. At Elmhurst Station, this is really the heart of the triangle as it creates a new crossroads of mobility with 70th Avenue acting as the pedestrian spine, 72nd Avenue is the bike corridor. It links up to the future 217 MUP as well as provide all the new bus and transit light rail facilities. This station is a really good example of the TOD work plan efforts and a success story that's come out of that, and that we were able to really look at with the city staff kind of leading the way about the best TOD scenarios in and around the station area, and that helped guide a station and alignment shift to improve those TOD conditions and help provide better support for the 217 MUP project by placing that on the north side of the light rail structure. The next structure is the 217 overpass. This is, as I mentioned, it's a critical link between the triangle and the downtown for transit. We'll also be doing a lot more design work to help fit this structure into its natural area setting around as wetlands. And we'll continue to, as I mentioned, to help find support for funding of the MUP. The Hall Station. So this is really the centerpiece of the Tigard TOD work plan effort. There are a lot of moving parts at this station with the operations and maintenance facility and station and alignment location, streetscapes, bus transfers, bike and pedestrian access to the station. We have a lot of work to do at this station to get this right. And so we really paid a lot of attention to the design value statements that were included in the CDR that are intended to reflect the commitments both for the Tigard MOU and the TOD work plan goals and objectives. So these really include the best outcomes for TOD at the station along Hall and supporting downtown, connecting to downtown and supporting the Hunziker industrial area employment. We want to fully integrate the station into the downtown area, including access to the transit center. It was pointed out in your letter, and it's absolutely right that we need to have safe pedestrian access and bike facilities to connect the transit center to the station. And some updates have already occurred. We've been working with Tigard staff and ODOT to address Hall Boulevard cross-section and looking at incorporating raised protected bike lanes and protected intersection design at Commercial and Hall. And then as we've also proposed some improvements to Commercial Street with new sidewalks, bus shelters, and other things to help facilitate those bus transfers occurring south of Ash Street. We know we need more visual description on appearances of some of the facilities here, including the OMF and its relationship to the station. And we intend to capture a lot of this design direction out of the station, continue working on defining the direction in the next few months, and then capture that in our 60% design prior to going into our land use approvals. So the last few stations here real quick. At Bonita, this will be as an elevated station. It will be the first elevated station in our system. It's elevated because we need to pass over the railroad, Bonita Street and Ball Creek. The work we have here continues to look at the appearances of the station and the structure itself, as well as access to the station and facilitating those connections to the Fano Creek Trail. Upper Boones Ferry, this is a split far side platform. This helps improve the safety of the gated crossing of Upper Boones Ferry and does include a lot of street improvements on Upper Boones Ferry and Sequoia Way. We have more work to do to address some of the pedestrian crossings at 72nd Avenue and continuing to address the high volumes of traffic that come through this area. And then the last station at Bridgeport Station, this is just outside of the Tigard city limits, but it's still an important station for the community, an important point of access with both bus transfers occurring at the transit center as well as up to 960 space park and ride stalls in the park and ride. That park and ride is connected to the station area with the PED bridge across Lower Boones Ferry Road. And we continue here as well to work with Tualatin staff to support their TOD and land use visions at the station. So as I mentioned, we're really at this great point in the project where we're moving away from talking about alignment choices, and we're starting to really think about the quality of the design and the station areas themselves. And we'll continue to dive deeper into those with Tigard staff and the community as well. Again, targeting 60% to be able to capture those outcomes, and then being able to most likely continuing to address those through 90% in final design to make sure we've captured the best possible outcomes for each of the station areas. It is a long process, but we really look forward to working through it with you and the Tigard community over the next few years. So I will stop there and ask if there's any specific questions or points within your letter specifically that you'd like to talk more depth about.
So this is Kate. Our third point on the replacement of jobs lost due to the location of the Hall Street station and the OMF, given that it's going to displace commercial property that is contributes to our tax base, relocating businesses. So what is your response to replacing those jobs that we're going to lose?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really important point, and we have heard consistently over the years that the importance of being able to look to the TOD spaces around the station area to help replace those jobs. And so the more robust that we can make the parcels and the conditions to help keep them ripe for development and do the best we can to support not only the downtown vision, but the Hunziker employment area is really important. And so we would look to that, as we've mentioned in the past, the OMF itself and the operations facility itself will bring jobs into this area, but it does not replace all the jobs lost. And so the transit-oriented development that we'd be looking to is the opportunity where we could start to look at how and where we can support employment growth and be able to replace some of those jobs lost. We have a lot of more work to do to identify what that looks like and how it can best support that goal. And so we put that front and center. It's in the conversations with Tigard staff, and we know it's important. We just haven't gotten, as I said, we've been working largely on getting the alignment over the last few years, and now that we have that, we're really diving into the station areas. So once we've checked the box on the environmental clearance, then we can start really digging into the urban design, and that's where I think the transit-oriented development will really take shape and really have a good picture of what that is and what that looks like. And we continue to talk, much like we did at the Elmhurst station with Tigard staff, about design changes and where things we can change to better support more robust TOD and parcels that better support development in the future.
I think Elise and then Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Jeb. This is
Hello.
Elise Shear here. Going along with Kate's question on the job replacement, I know that many of the businesses that have located in Tigard are here for the reason that they're centrally located and accessible to highways, easy access in every direction. Many of them would like to continue to remain in Tigard. And what is TriMet's commitment to Tigard, to our tax base, to continue attempting to try to locate those businesses again within the Tigard area?
Yep. So our commitments are to those property owners, and we are required to follow the Uniform Relocation Act. And I am not an expert on the nuances of that act, but I can tell you that first and foremost, we work with the property owner to identify what it is they need and what it is they want to do, and give them first and foremost their choices, and put them in the front and center. And so if they want to stay in Tigard and there are locations in Tigard that they're aware of that meet their needs, we will definitely help facilitate that. If there are conditions that they need specific to access and other things, and they can't find that in Tigard, we will help them wherever that is located to relocate it to keep them whole. I would also say that any economic remainder that we have, so what I mean by that is if we purchase a parcel, we build a transit facility on it, and then there's a piece of that parcel that we're not using for the transit project itself, the first right of first refusal is with that property owner. So if they want to keep their property and they want to, either reestablish that business or develop into another use, they have the right to keep that economic remainder. And so we'll be going through and following that the Uniform Relocation Act as far as the process and the rules and regulations to guide us in our conversations. But we do put the property owners and their goals first and foremost for any of the throughout that process.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ryan?
Hey, Jeb.
Hi, Ryan.
I was hoping you could speak a bit more to the commercial hall intersection. Kind of, if you could get a bit more specific about what design treatments you're looking at right now for that. Seems like a really critical connector to downtown, obviously, but it just didn't get quite as much attention as I was hoping for. So if you could elaborate a little bit, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have learned a lot on this project about raised protected bike lane facilities and the benefits that they can have for pedestrians. The reason is because they offer opportunities to bring the pedestrian ramps and landings at each corner closer together, because bikes can essentially function in a way that they operate through the intersection behind the pedestrian landing, if that makes sense. And so because the pedestrian doesn't have to enter in the street and cross over a bike lane and 2, 3, 4 travel lanes and another bike lane to get to a safe pedestrian landing, they only need to cross over the travel lanes themselves. So that significantly reduces the distance of travel or pedestrian exposure to vehicle and the times that they're exposed to vehicles. So it also helps in the design of the radius. So you can position the crosswalks in a way that allow a car to complete enough of a turn where it removes the blind spot for the pedestrians, and they're able to see them clearly, know where they are, and they can stop for the pedestrians while they proceed safely across the crosswalk, especially for turning movements. There's also, I believe, introduction of an median, a pedestrian island. There's a 3-lane cross section on Hall. So in the middle lane for the turn lane, there's an introduction of a pedestrian island, which further reduces the time that pedestrians are exposed to vehicle lanes without being in a safe place. So we're really working to minimize the overall pedestrian length of the crossing, give them safe places to dwell, not only in traffic and vehicle lanes, but also, or not in lanes, but outside of the lanes, but outside of the bike lanes as well. Allow safe movement of bikes through the intersection in a way that keeps them more highly visible and helps protect them from right hooks and other movements. And then implement those principles, as I mentioned, which is called like a protected intersection design that looks at those curb radiuses and sight lines and everything to really open up the intersection and make sure that pedestrians are as visible as they can be. And so we have gone through specifically are in the process of what's called the Blueprint for Urban Design, or BUD process with ODOT. It's a brand new thing that they have that allows for race protected bike lanes on their facilities. So we worked with Tigard staff to identify the dimensions of their preferred street cross-section that includes those raised protected bike lanes and protected intersection facilities I was talking about, and take that through the approval process with ODOT to sort of, we're the guinea pigs. We're the first ones coming through this process. So we're going to go through it with them and hopefully come out the other end with an approval and be able to apply that into the Hall commercial intersection as well as Hall Boulevard itself.
And Jeb, I would just add one thing is that today there is no signal, but in the future there would be a traffic signal. I think we often think of them as a tool for vehicles, but it's creating a protected movement there for pedestrians across Hall as well.
Yes, thank you.
Really appreciate the response. I don't have the CDR at my fingertips right now, but are there conceptual drawings of that intersection in the report that show kind of clearly what you just talked about, Jeb?
Yes, yeah. There's the functional plan will show the scope limits. There's a cross section included in there that gives an idea of what the layout is looking like, and then the visual rendering for that station, I believe, is from the perspective of a pedestrian crossing that intersection and looking towards the station. So between those, you should get a pretty good idea of what that looks like. And if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out and we can provide some more detail for you.
Great. So just so I'm totally clear, I'm assuming that any sort of raised crossing over Hall is off the table. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, I just kind of had a question, and this would be surrounded around equity and particularly around activating the new stops in Tigard. And I was just wondering for the people to use the areas in the TOD, even during the day, like the Atwell, to be able to bring, residents out of their homes and even business people, people, now that we're doing more virtual working, is there any talks of adding Wi-Fi in the TODs?
I don't know the answer to that. Sean, do you know of any, is there any efforts in the city to work with those, or work with developers to include that?
Municipal Wi-Fi, I think we've done really high level thinking about it, but nothing specific around specific developments. I'll talk to our economic development manager and see where we're coming down on that. How about Wi-Fi on the light rail cars?
Also a great question for which I do not know the answer. If Amparo, do you know the answer to that? And if not, can we get back to them regarding information?
No, I do not have an answer to that, but we will definitely ask.
Two back-to-back stump questions.
Sorry about that. I'd just like to add that, I've seen there's tablets at some bus stops now, and I wonder how they run. And I think it'd be a cool idea to, with all the affordable housing we're bringing in, and some people rely on Wi-Fi to use their phones in a higher capacity. So it's just kind of interesting if we could bring Wi-Fi into at least those new bus stations or into the TOD areas.
Yeah, that's a great feedback and something we should definitely be considering. So we'll see if that's something that we've been looking into and get back to you.
Same here.
Thank you, guys.
Any other questions or comments? Elise?
Hi, Kate. Thank you very much. I believe it's going to be Jeb who will probably be able to answer this for me. One of the questions that our committee has had is more space for transit-oriented development on both sides of Hall Boulevard next to the station versus just across the street. And I know that the planning stage is just barely past the 20% right now. So has any more discussion taken place on the orientation of the O&M facility to allow for more transit-oriented develop on both sides of Hall?
Yes, short answer. So that there are a number of design considerations that we've been, that Tigard staff has asked TriMet to start taking a look at. And so, those conversations have been very recent, and we're kind of really midstream of our TOD work plan that I was mentioning. So I would say, over the course of the next few months, we'll start to be able to understand feasibility of those and how they could be applied and what the trade-offs and benefits are. And so we'll be working with staff to help flesh those out a little bit more and refine those and see if they work. There's a number of, as I mentioned, there's a lot of moving parts with streetscape and station and alignment and OMF orientation, and each one of those, as I mentioned, they come with trade-offs. So we really need to understand what they are and vet those, and then circle back with Tigard staff.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Ryan, did you have a question?
Sorry, I just forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, no problem. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. Any other questions or comments?
And this is Amparo. I just want to reiterate that we are more than happy to come and attend your meetings as you all would like us to. If there's a recurring date or time that you would like us to come back, we don't have to do a full-on presentation. We can come and give you updates. We can come every month if you'd like and just give you a small update of what's going on. And we can continue to keep the conversation. And you're also encouraged to join us at our CAC meetings. A lot of the information does move pretty quickly, so sometimes it seems like we are not connecting. So we would love to continue to give you updates as much as we can, and please feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much. We will definitely take you up on that. Sean and I can be in touch and figure out a schedule for you to come back and continue to keep us updated. This is, as you can tell, a very key project for us. Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you very much. Amparo, Fiona, and Jeb, we appreciate your time tonight, and we look forward to getting updates in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Bye. Okay, Sean, I think the next thing on our agenda is to talk about the Tigard downtown vision.
Yes, let me bring that up here.
Okay.
Being very slow.
I panicked a minute ago because my PC suddenly decided that it should shut down and do an update. And I'm like, no.
So I can talk a little bit about where this came from. This is part of the City Center Futures project. And I'm sure you're familiar with the downtown vision, that depiction of how downtown could grow over the next 50 years. We did that back in 2010, working with a group of University of Oregon architecture students at first, and then one in particular who did the bulk of the work. We thought this would be a good time with the potential coming of light rail to revisit that and have some new drawings and from different perspectives as well. So Sarah Architects worked on that, and I'm not sure why this PowerPoint is not loading right now. It's not that big.
Sean, is it what's in our package? I have it up. I can share my screen if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with my computer, so if you can bring it up, that'd be great.
We'll see if it will let me. Can you see my screen?
No.
Now?
Nope.
Huh. I tried to take control. There you go. Oh, maybe open share tray. How about now?
Yes.
Aha. Okay. You can just tell me when to move to the next slide.
Yeah, let's look at the visuals first, and then we can go back to the vision statement. So this is what they came up with, and this is kind of looking at the whole district with less detail, but kind of just getting an overall view of the district and the kind of development that could happen. It shows the Hall MAC station there, new city offices, Universal Plaza, and then just a lot of new development, including the Civic Center, redeveloped with housing and mixed use. Next slide. So this is kind of a not a bird's eye view, but an oblique view of Burnham, and just showing the kind of the scale of development. So not huge towers, but 3- and 4-story buildings. Next to the park, you have more street connections there. So if Burnham is here, then it's showing, parallel to that. We have a desire to have a new street that connects through to Hall, and the Atwell Place Street is the first leg of that. So as the rest of the area develops, we'll see new street sections built, and eventually would go all the way to Hall Boulevard. So that new street network is pretty important because it's large blocks kind of discourage people from walking. It just makes for not as good development. You want more corners. You want more access to interior blocks. And if you can go to the next page. So this is showing commercial ending with the Hall MAC station. Kind of giving you a sense there. Showing a lot of new housing, a lot of new mixed use. And not getting into great detail about what the TOD looks like around the station, but just kind of giving you a flavor of, a fully redeveloped downtown. If the light rail does come to pass, that's, could be a game changer and making, there'd be more interest in housing to take advantage of that good transit connection. So if we could go back to that first page. So part of the vision, we wanted to, not reinvent the wheel with a completely new vision statement, but maybe updating it. Well, definitely updating it and tweaking it. And so what we have, the original 2004-5 vision from the TDIP, the Tigard Downtown Improvement Plan, was our vision of Tigard as a vibrant and active urban village at the heart of the community that is pedestrian oriented, accessible by many modes of transportation, recognizes and uses natural resources as an asset, and features a combination of uses that enable people to live, work, play, and shop in an environment that is uniquely Tigard. So that's a pretty good summation of what we've been trying to do for all these years. But we thought we would tweak it a little bit. Kate, if you could scooch that up just a little bit. I have a Teams controller kind of covering that statement. So we wanted to shorten it up a little bit. And this is, this is very drafty, and we wanted to get your input before we finalized it. Our vision of downtown Tigard is a vibrant, active, and welcoming city center at the heart of our community. It provides transportation, recreational, residential, and business opportunities that are accessible to everyone. So, it shortens it up, a little more punchy, a little more talk of accessibility and getting at being welcoming to all cultures and all people. So, I'd like to take a few minutes and see if there's any feedback on this, if anybody has any tweaks or any, major overhaul suggestions. We don't have to make a decision on this tonight. We can work on it more next month. Or if you think it's fine as it is, we can keep it as it is. Any thoughts? Elise?
Hi, Sean. Earlier, one of our people, I think it was, where is he? Someone was mentioning equity.
Mm-hmm.
And since we're going to be focusing a lot on affordable housing in the downtown, it'd be nice to have the word equitable or something in there that helps people understand we're trying to create a community that is open to everyone, not just accessible to everyone, because that means, to me, that means transportation access, driving around, walking, etc. But equitable, I think that would be a great word to find a way to include in there.
Yeah, I agree. Vibrant, equitable, and well, we'll play around with it.
I think that for me, there's kind of two things going on. It provides transportation, and then that's one thought, and then recreational, residential, and business opportunities. So I assume that opportunities refers to recreational, residential, and business. It to me, you're kind of mixing. I almost think it needs to be 3 sentences instead of 2. That second sentence seems to be saying too much.
Yeah, I might have been trying to shorten it too much there.
I always appreciate brevity, but I think that more sentences that are short might get the point across better.
What if we put the word equitable in front of transportation and dropped accessible? Because then, you're speaking to accessibility, but you're also speaking to affordability at that point.
Right. And I forgot to mention at the top of this. I'm sorry, I had an opening thing that this vision is based on that that intensive online workshop we had with Sarah Architects and
Yes.
beginning of July. And there was other input from a survey that was on our website for a long time too, asking about the goals. So the visuals were informed by that, and the vision statement as well, although not a big change from what was there. But we can noodle on this more and bring it back in a future at the November meeting. So smaller sentences and working equitable in there.
Yes.
Ryan?
So I'm looking at, I guess it's page 7 of the packet that was sent out. It's the kind of really conceptual plan. And I was a little concerned about the some of the mention of new streets. I think generally it's a good idea. I'd like to see just a lot of consideration about floodplain encroachment and just kind of natural area encroachment along Fano Creek. That edge is just so important. And it looks like there are a few buildings that are existing buildings that would be where there's no redevelopment shown. And I hope that it would be the plan adopted, but those streets penetrate the Fano Creek corridor kind of a lot. I think maybe more than maybe justified, where it's particularly where it says Civic Center redevelopment. That whole line of buildings along that road, that new street.
Up here? This one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that whole line of structures, I'd like to, I mean, I know this is super conceptual and I don't like put too much on it, but I just think that it may be worth considering, maybe you have a street there, but maybe the west or south side of the street isn't built. It's natural area and there's a nice sidewalk there. I'm just concerned about too much development encroaching on the Fano Creek corridor. And I think that's a perfect opportunity to back out of the corridor a bit. Development wise, there's so much other development area here that we're looking at that I just don't think that's an appropriate way to develop that natural area edge. So I would just want to advocate for that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear you that natural resources are an important aspect of the downtown, an important value. I'm fairly certain that our architects, Sarah Architects, they took into account the floodplain boundary and even a buffer that goes along with that. So it may, it may look like it's encroaching, but I can double check with our architects that they did respect that boundary, because it kind of it changes kind of throughout the downtown. There's areas where it's kind of, I know the floodplain where the existing city hall is kind of comes right up nearly to the existing buildings. So I don't think they went any further than that, but I hear you that, you know, as we get closer to that natural resource, there should be less intense development.
Yeah, and I mean, I would encourage us to think beyond just the floodplain boundary. I mean, that's the regulatory boundary, but I think we want to think also in a more experiential way for people who live and work down here and use the Fano Creek Trail. So if you look on the south side of Hall, you know, you can see where the natural area boundary sort of is. It kind of comes to a point. And to me, the logical thing to do is extend the width of the corridor accordingly across to the north side of Hall, so that you have a wider natural area corridor, not just floodplain, but adjacent uplands and places for people to recreate outside of the floodplain, and just to create a more ecologically functional Fano Creek corridor. I just think that's important.
Right. Can you see my cursor, Ryan? Is this the area that you're talking about right here at the Civic Center redevelopment?
Yeah, that's the area I'm definitely talking about.
Right in here.
Yeah, that whole band of buildings, I just think doesn't belong there, personally. Just as a ecologist, as a landscape architect, I just don't think we need to build that edge out. And I would just encourage movement away from that. I know this is super conceptual, but conceptual things end up kind of surviving another day. And I just would prefer personally to see that development not there. I just think that should be, if it's a street, make it a street that abuts a natural area that has a little more width and a little more integrity to it. I just don't see the need to build along every possible developable area, you know, acre outside of the floodplain. I just think it doesn't reflect what the rest of Fano Creek, the Fano Creek corridor, I think, is trying to be ecologically and as a place for people to walk and ride their bikes and stuff. It just looks overdeveloped. That's all.
Hey, Kate and Ryan.
Yes.
Hi, this is Elise. I really like what Ryan's suggestions are saying about that. Since the new city offices are already relocated north of Burnham, what are those buildings, the little buildings south of that new street, slated to be?
Residential.
Those are supposed to be residential. Okay. And then one more question. The brown buildings in the center, just above the Fano Creek trails, is that the Comcast facility? What is that facility? The brown buildings that are grandfathered in?
Yeah, the brown buildings are showing buildings that aren't changing. So,
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I'm wondering if it's the Comcast facility. That doesn't look like the Comcast
south
facility.
there?
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. I better. Can you move that up a little bit, Kate?
Currently, it's Burnham storage. It's a storage facility currently.
Oh, so
that extends all the way up to Burnham, actually, currently.
I would be very surprised if that even remained, because I would think that would be one of the parcels we'd want to purchase out completely upon redevelopment. And then,
yeah, I'll ask them about that. I didn't really notice that.
And then Ryan, I have a question for you. The open space in the new area, the Civic Center area next to Hall, where they have the open green plaza, do you think it would be better located closer to the creek and reapportion those buildings for more open public space near the creek?
Generally, yeah. Generally, yeah. I think, I mean, it'd be nice to have a plaza or a space there, but yeah, some of the building could be, or the development could be shifted maybe along that edge. I don't also understand necessarily like the kind of the market for all of this like I'm just having a hard time understanding, and we can't know all this because it's super hypothetical, but
Well,
I
it
don't know.
helps build up the city tax base again if we can redevelop on city-owned parcels and put in more housing, then we can build it back up the tax base.
No, I understand that. I'm just curious what the demand is going to be for all of this development. Like we're making a lot of assumptions about demand for this kind of development, and I guess I would just advocate for, like, if we're going to build along the Fennel Creek corridor as shown here, I just want to know there's demand for it, and that we and again, I know this is just a conceptual drawing, but these things just tend to survive, and then that becomes the kind of the public perception of what's going to happen in a particular place. So I would just like to see us be cautious about pushing development this close to the floodplain and the corridor. It's such an important community asset in my mind that I think we should just tread really lightly around developing right up to the edge of it. I question whether it is a sensible thing to show on drawings right now, as we kind of get the public on board with this.
I agree. And then also, I can tell you that our city council in the past has been adamant about not pushing the boundaries of the floodplain with developers, saying that we have to stay out of the floodplain. And so I'm kind of surprised to see it building that close myself, but some of the new structures that have gone in over, I think it's off Oak Street. This is the second round of development that went out there, because the first one was completely turned down after iterations and fighting the floodplain and trying to say, the city council said, no, not happening. And so they had to shut down that whole plan. And so I think you have a lot of advocates on the city council and the planning commission about protecting that floodplain.
Yeah, a couple things in response. This is, in terms of the market, this is kind of meant to be like the maximum development in 30, 40 years. So it's going to take time. If light rail comes in, I think it is going to generate a lot of new interest for redevelopment, but this is going to take a while to occur. And again, I hear you on the floodplain. And as Ryan is, what I understand Ryan is saying is that even if these buildings that are shown that aren't in the floodplain, it's too intense development next to that natural resource, as shown. Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see the need to push as far into the. I would steer away from the floodplain as the delineator, and think about it more as a corridor where you have the floodplain and then you have adjacent uplands that provide public benefit too, in an undeveloped state. So I think it's really a corridor concept, less a floodplain mapping exercise. I mean, you can map the floodplain is mapped extensively throughout this area, but I think we want adjacent uplands as well that provide public benefit.
Yeah.
One more question, Sean.
Yes.
As I see this beautiful picture here, lots of green, but it's not even showing the actual parking lot in place next to the apartment complexes that have gone in. And I know that we're doing the 1-to-1 ratio now of one parking space per unit, and then that or less, but it's not showing it. It's not showing how the parking lot developed next to the current apartment structures, and all it's showing is street structures and lots of beautiful landscape. And I think we have to be realistic and show plausible parking issues that are going to come up with this kind of development.
Yeah, they're assuming one of those structures is a structured parking. So that might be like a way out in the future where it's there's enough demand to build that. It is it's cheating a little bit, not showing the surface parking. But
I would like to take the cheating out of the equation and be realistic when we're showing how much parking we already have next to the current apartment complex, and understand that when this stuff develops out, we're going to have to find a way to provide that. So besides just a structure, I want to see it. I want it to be more realistic. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Sure. Ryan, is your hand up?
No, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting to lower my hand.
It's going to get tired. Any other?
I've already said plenty anyway.
No, it's very helpful. Other comments, observations? Tom?
Thank you, Kate. To return to the matter of the mission statement, I believe that one of the revisions from the original statement was to delete the reference to natural resources as an asset. As Ryan's comments have ably demonstrated, the natural resources that are part of the Downtown Urban Renewal District are an invaluable resource for the quality of life in the district. And while I'm, believe it or not, an admirer of the virtue of brevity, I wince at the deletion of any reference to the natural areas. I do believe that Fano Creek is one of the strongest amenities in the Downtown Urban Renewal District, and deserves in some fashion or another a mention in our mission statement. Due regard for the tax base, but it ain't Tigard if we pave over everything. So I would like to expand the mission statement perhaps a bit to add back some type of reference to natural resources, natural areas, and the like.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. Other comments?
I just had a kind of a clarification question.
Yeah.
The city of Tigard, what is the highest level of buildings that that the city would like to, kind of stick around? Is there, basically, I believe we don't want to go above 6 levels, but am I incorrect on that?
So currently in the downtown, 6 stories is the limit, and that's kind of the breaking point in just in development. You move from one kind of construction, which is basically you could do a 6-story building that would be concrete podium and then 5 floors of wood construction. Anything taller than that, then you're talking about getting into structural steel, which is a lot more expensive to do. So we've kept it at 6 stories, you know, for a couple of reasons. That's one reason. That's kind of just an economics of what we think we would get. The other reasons are for, you know, not wanting to overwhelm the downtown with really tall towers and putting shadows and creating wind tunnels and all that. And, you know, also there's the consideration of the impact on traffic. On Hall Boulevard and 99W, those are ODOT facilities, and they actually have a say in how much traffic can be generated by new development and what's allowed in our zoning code. And one good thing that's going to come out of that TGM grant that I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, that we did get that grant for the Downtown Reimagined, is that we're going to be able to do some transportation analysis to, if we don't mess with the heights, we're at least going to try to allow more density, particularly around the light rail stations. And that grant is going to, you know, perform some analysis we've been wanting to do for a while, but wanted to get grant funding to do it. So we'll be able to do that and allow some more intensive development. So I think, you know, 6 stories is where we're at. If somebody had an amazing proposal for a amazing architecturally stunning tower that was taller than that, you know, maybe we would reconsider. But I think 6 stories is probably an appropriate level of development for this area. Tom? Is your hand up, Tom?
Sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay. And Sean, we're going to be working on this in a future meeting, correct?
Yeah, I'll take what I've heard here and come back with a new vision statement. I will see if I can get changes made to that drawing. We're out of budget now, but I'll see if they can at least tone down that development around the resource of Banner Creek.
Okay, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is liaison reports. Does anyone have a liaison report they'd like to share?
You heard about Southwest Corridor, so I don't think you need me. I'm just saying, everybody, please go vote. That's all I can ask you to do. Thank you.
I can't vote, so.
Go ahead.
This is Chris from
Yes.
speaking for the TDA. And there's a few things that we're doing this month. Starting this weekend, there is a window decorating contest on Main Street for Halloween. And then next week on Monday, Tigard Drinks for Good, which we have 10 participating businesses on Main Street selling alcoholic beverages, apple cider based, that they will sell for $6, and $1 goes to the Tigard Historical Society. That's going to be 1 week long. The window decorating thing is going to be up till the end of the month, Halloween, basically. And there's some selfie stations, a scavenger hunt. So there's a little bit of stuff that's going to go on. We're a little bit behind on advertising that, but there is on the website or the Facebook social media, there's information to be found on that regard. Tomorrow morning, there will be the stakeholder meeting at 8 a.m. on Zoom, which will cover pretty much all of that, including some stuff from TriMet, and then the Main Street, the second phase of Main Street as well. And I think there's some other Sipley fiber or somebody's talking as well about internet opportunities. So that's what's happening on the TDA level.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Well, I can report from PRAB in that I gave a presentation on Universal Plaza. And we'll be bringing that same presentation to TCAC next month.
And I will share that there was a virtual open house for the senior affordable housing development next to the senior center. And overall, I would say it was quite positive. There were a couple of, I mean, every time we talk about it, obviously parking comes up. Is there going to be enough parking? I think there is a pretty good answer to that. We've really increased the amount of parking available, and there was a concern about the height of the building and what that would look like to the residential area. But they have moved it in such a way that it should minimize any blockage of kind of the view over Fano Creek, and it also steps down. But then there were a lot of people that were saying, how do I apply to live there? And very positive statements as well. Sean, you saw more of the questions that were being asked.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of overtly hostile questions. And there was a couple of, points that NHA is going to take and, consider in their plans, the parking and the views from the roof deck being directed, towards Fano Creek rather than towards the neighborhood. Was anyone at the design advisory for the Universal Plaza?
I think, Ryan, did you?
Yeah, I was part of that.
Would you care to share the experience?
Yeah, it was a fairly large group. I think there were 40 some odd people who originally signed up to be there. I think maybe there was closer to 20 something at the meeting. It was interesting. I mean, it was a little challenging because no one really knew each other, and there wasn't really an introduction. And a few folks, at least in the group I was in, chose to kind of go off on describing the entire design as conceived of in their own mind for the plaza. So it got a little bit, we got really deep into the details pretty quickly with a few folks. But overall, I think it's on a really good trajectory. I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting input coming out of the more experiential dimensions of the design process. So I think it's going to be really cool. Yeah, no, it's just good to be a part of. I mean, the kind of elephant in the room seemed to be the Stevens Marine property to the north. Just kind of really cuts off a lot of connective opportunity there. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be hopefully the group will provide some really meaningful input. That's the hope, I think.
Yeah, so we should have, they're, going to be developing some concepts based on what they heard. That's one track, and we'll be sharing those concepts with the TCAC. And then on the near term, by the middle of next month, we should be able to open up the site to the public. There will be some temporary art in place there, and the lawn is coming in nicely, and there will be a larger piece of temporary art that I think they're going to start constructing, and it may not be ready until December. I think they're having some issue with producing the fabric that's needed for it, but there will be some cool stuff there, and we're supposed to get the twinkle trees that were part of the Portland Festival of Lights last year. There are these 16-foot tall, they look like real trees, but they're lit with LED lights. We'll be having those in December and January on site. So that should be pretty cool. People will want to go down there and Instagram them. So stay tuned for more information there.
Sean, may I ask a question of Ryan?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ryan, was there any discussion about children's play structures or anything, and desires to have children help design a play structure within the site?
Not in the breakout group that I was a part of. I didn't hear anything about, certainly not about any sort of inclusion of kids in the design process, though I think that's a great idea. Yeah, I haven't really didn't hear much about active play, other than the water feature has been getting a lot of interest and discussion, but beyond that, not much around active play for kids.
Mm-hmm. Sean, is that something that we can put in as a request, that we have children on the design committee for a play structure in the future?
Yeah, we did. We were hoping on getting some youth as design advisors. I don't think we were successful, so maybe we should be more deliberate in trying to go to that population to get their feedback. Mm-hmm. I don't know that like a playground is in the cards there, but definitely a water feature that will attract kids. And our designers did mention an idea of swings that would be for children or adult usage. I think that's just kind of an idea floating around now, but it could be worked on and be a real proposal. But yeah, I think that's right. We did want to get youth as design advisors, and we didn't get any takers, but we should go to them, because that's a harder population to reach. Can't expect them just to sign up for something like that.
Sure. Well, I was going to tell you, I'm surprised that someone asked for swings, because that's one of the highest liability issues in playgrounds besides teeter-totters. So, yeah. Anyhow,
oh yeah, our risk manager will have review of our whatever we come up with.
All right. Thank you.
In regards to Red Rock Creek Commons with DEPA, the developer has had 6 confirmed cases of COVID, so that is being taken into consideration with the timeline of development. But LMC is the developers there, and they are doing everything they can to keep the development on track.
So the construction workers, Justin?
Yes.
Oh wow. Huh.
Yes, six of them.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that.
Thanks for that update. I hadn't heard that.
Absolutely.
I participated, oh my goodness, Tuesday, today's Wednesday, so yesterday, on a call regarding the city facilities consolidation. There was a discussion group held. It was a 2-hour session, getting feedback from some local residents that also have involvement in the city. And they asked questions, they did polls, they asked for our feedback on messaging, and they wanted to know at the end what other groups they should speak to. And I did ask that they come and speak to the TCAC and get our input on the project, on the messaging, on the approach. So we'll get that on the agendas, hopefully for next month, Sean, or as soon as we possibly can, so that we can have input into that discussion. And that's the city's facilities consolidation is the project to move, create a multi-story city building at the corner of Burnham and Hall and replace and then make that space that is currently the city buildings, make that available to development. So part of the funding for the new city buildings would be selling that property for development.
Yeah, we'll get that on November or December agendas.
Yeah. Any other liaison reports or non-agenda items?
I think Chris has a non-agenda item.
Chris?
Yes, just raised my hand. I have, this is me personally as a business owner, not through TDA or TCAC or whatnot, but speaking to a lot of business owners on Main Street, what has been raised as a issue or a wish or question, can we, is lighting up the downtown with Christmas lights. And our mission statement or vision says vibrant, welcoming, attractive downtown. So I want to make an approach to either the city as a TCAC or the TDA to get Christmas tree lighting going on each of the trees, and even where the banner goes across with maybe icicles, kind of do something this year from Thanksgiving till some point in January to lighten up the downtown on Main Street a little bit, as it's a very dark downtown and not very inviting. A lot of downtowns have lights, and it's a attraction in a lot of cities all over the world. And I feel like that would help to create a little more atmosphere in this season with COVID and whatnot, and helping out the community to go someplace where it's, something to do. So I don't know how it's a short period of time that we have to get this organized and settled and up and running. And I don't know who is going to pay for it and how this is going to happen, but I was going to order some lights and try one tree myself outside my store, see how it looks, and see if this is something that we can do and replicate on. I think there's a total of 12 or 13 trees, as we have done it last year for Relay for Life with purple trees that the city had outlets available and ready to go for each of those trees. So, as I said, at this point, I don't know what the right approach is, if this is something that TCAC needs to be involved and approve and the city pay for, or passed on to the TDA. But I think it should happen by Thanksgiving.
As a former member of the TDA, I can tell you that discussion has come up many times. And one of the other things we've talked about in the past was also lighting the orbs, the glass orbs, with some sort of a solar feature so that they looked like Christmas ornaments.
Ooh.
So perhaps we could go back to the TDA and hopefully encourage them to take some step in that direction this year. I don't know what their funds are this year.
Unfortunately, I am a board of director for the TDA as well. And they want to do uplighting from the ground up with color changing LEDs. That I think is good for the rest of the year, but doing Christmas season, I think it needs to be something different. And as I said, this is an approach from me as a business owner and not a member of the TDA. So I don't want to speak for what the money that is available from the TDA versus what's not, but I just kind of want to get this conversation started, and I would like some input from other people for the right approach on this. As you already know, this has been mentioned years ago and nothing has happened. So if we can kind of go back to that conversation and start it over again and get something done, that would be great.
Sean, from a purely structural point of view, given the rules and regulations around how TIF money is used, I don't know that we could even, I don't know if we could even propose doing this. Is it even feasible within the structure of the urban renewal district to do something like this?
Yeah, that's a good question about the lights. You know, I know installing electrical outlets, which are permanent, is fundable, but the cost for lights, which, as you know, if you put up Christmas lights every year, seems to get shorter and shorter, the lifespan of those lights. So I'm not sure it could be funded by TIF. There are, you know, there's other avenues of city funds. But Chris and I talked a little bit about this before the meeting, and I kind of think the TDA might be a good avenue. The city does fund the TDA, and this could be an appropriate use of funds. But I'll also check around with others at the city if we think there's other city funds that aren't TIF funds that could help, because I think it is a good, it's a need. Our downtown businesses are hurting during this COVID crisis, and you know, anything to help attract customers to come to Main Street. But yeah, I don't think TIF could fund it.
Yeah, that's what I was. Was my gut reaction. Just given, you know, the rules, I wasn't sure we could do that. But if we can figure out another source of funding, maybe, you know, the TDA matches. We do some. If we could figure out a way for the city to match TDA funds or something like that.
Right, and you know, there's only 13 trees that have those outlets, and they're all in the, you know, the not recently anymore, but the Main Street, Green Street, south of the tracks. Those will be included in the north section that is currently being designed. So it would you know, the lights would only be in the southern half of the street at this point, which, you know, there are a lot of businesses in that section
Yeah.
of the street, but it wouldn't be all of Main Street this year.
Not this year, but at least it would be a start.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sean, you'll sort of take a look at maybe some other sources of funding. Justin, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess I just kind of have two comments. There's going to be some fundraising efforts throughout the businesses here soon. And that just kind of be interesting if we could do it again and replicate it to maybe get some funding and give it to the TCAD instead of the not instead of or this next time. But also if there could be any funding initiative started by either the city or a coalition of businesses, because I know there is a want in the city for not only the downtown area to have Christmas lights, but also down Durham. And I think, you know, if we were bringing people down to the downtown area, you know, it could be interesting to, you know, bring lights down Durham and keep a theme and send people downtown Tigard, and there kind of be a theme going on there. So if there could be any kind of initiatives to do any kind of fundraising to donate to the TCAD, who could facilitate this purchasing and working with Public Works to get the lights installed and put up and taken down and maintenance. I don't know if that's an option that the city can do or not.
Justin, you mean Burnham? Durham is the road that runs by the high school.
Yes, sorry, yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I do know that there is quite a bit of homes down this way and people would be traveling down this way. And so like for the theme, it would just, it's just my own personal idea to kind of put some lights here and there. Like, okay, you know, you're going on this almost scavenger hunt of Christmas lights and you're traveling down Durham and you go down Burnham and boom, you're down Main Street where it's just fabulous. That's just, you know, maybe long-term, 3 years, 4 years, or actually if we were able to get a very successful fundraising drive through the city members that are city residents that are, I feel, really interested in this type of deal, then maybe we could actually have enough funds to go that full extent.
I think the TDA is what you were talking about as the nonprofit in the downtown. And so I think that's what you mean is fundraising for the TDA. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
As a business owner speaking here, I don't think you need to approach business owners right now for fundraising for Christmas lights after like everything that has been happening this year. So either it's going to be the TDA that will pay, which is partially funded through the city, or it goes back to the city that will fund it. But start a fundraising campaign for Christmas lights, I think that's the wrong approach.
Mm-hmm. It might be. Oops, sorry, Sean. I just was going to say it might be a great idea for us to start planning for something like that for next year, because it's a little late in the game to come up with money and there's no grant funding available right now. So, sorry, pass it on to you, Sean.
I was just gonna say, so I think we can take a two-pronged approach on this. That Chris, you take it up with the TDA, and I will ask around at the city if there's any opportunities there. But we'd be supportive of the TDA funding this. But I'll see if there's any other funds.
Thank you. Renad?
Oh, hi. I just had a question for the structure that goes over Main Street where you can hang banners. Mm-hmm. Is there already something that the city has used before for the holidays? or is that something that's needed?
So yeah, there's currently a banner there, and I think last holiday season it wasn't operational, so maybe we haven't had a holiday banner up there yet. So yeah, that's another thing I'll ask about.
Okay, because I was thinking if there wasn't one, it might be something that maybe they could have like a contest to create one that not only celebrated the Christian holiday, but all the holidays that happen around that time of year. And then maybe they could get like a sign shop or something to make it and donate it.
There's usually for, especially right now with trick or treat, that is normally happening on Main Street through the TDA, that is canceled this year for obvious reasons. And then the tree lighting. So those are kind of the banners that normally go up there, but none of that is actually happening this year. So that would be available for anything. And I think that could also be sold for like a sponsorship, so to say, where if we were to do some sort of Christmas lights on Main Street, that could be, funded through a sponsor that could have a banner hanging up over there as well to raise money. So that will be one way or an option to get a banner there. Obviously, it would be advertising, but or sponsorships or something else. But right now, there's no plans on having anything on that banner right now, as we have no events.
Yeah, there's parameters around what could be on that banner. I haven't looked at those rules for a while, but I'll also ask about a general holiday banner or a banner that would encourage people to shop Main Street or shop downtown for the holidays. I'll make inquiries about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, any other last non-agenda items? I think we're over our time. So thank you all very much for your time tonight and your thoughts. And we will see you next month. Thanks so much, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.